everyone, this is Liz from the Beverly Public Library. Welcome to another episode of STEAM Scribbles, where we explore different science, technology, engineering, and math concepts together using just pencils and paper. This week we're going to take a closer look at light and shadows and how they work. You know what shadows are, you've seen them before. They're the dark shapes that you see whenever you're in the light. And the reason you only see them when you're in the light is because light is actually what causes shadows. Let me show you what I mean. Light travels from a source, like say the sun. I'm gonna draw the sun on here for you. There it is. It travels directly outward in beams, so that's where the word sunbeams come from. Just like that. When it meets a solid object, like a person, say you, or say a tree. I'm feeling like drawing a tree today. That solid object will act as a roadblock to the light's travel. So it can't go any further. But since light travels in lots of beams, the beams that are not blocked by that object keep going. So there's still light all around the object. The end result is that behind the object there's a dark shape where there's no light. That's exactly that object's shape from the point of view of where the light was coming from. So there would be a tree-shaped shadow this way. I didn't leave enough space to draw all of it, but there's the beginning of the leaves. And that's how shadows work. Objects that cast shadows are always objects that you can't see through or that are opaque. If light hits an object that you can see through, like say a glass window, light can still travel through there. That's why glass windows don't cast shadows. Objects like that are called transparent. Now that we see how shadows are made and how they work, let's see if we can figure out how shadows will work over the course of a day if we're standing outside. So I'm going to set this one aside and we're going to draw a comic together. To do that, we're going to have to draw our panels. So first draw one straight line down your page. Doesn't really matter which way your page is laying. And then draw one straight line across your page. And each of these boxes will be a comic panel. And then in each comic panel, we're going to draw the exact same object in the same position outside somewhere. It can be you, it could be a tree like I did in that first drawing, it can be anything you'd like it to be. I'm going to stick with the tree because that feels right. And put the object in the direct center of your box. That way you'll have room to draw the shadow. I didn't have room on my last drawing, so we want to make sure to make the space, right? So, there's my tree. And we're just pretending that the bottom line of each box is the ground. Now that we have our objects and our panels, we need to add in our light sources so we can figure out where the shadows are going to go. So let's take them one panel at a time, and we'll start with our first panel on the top left over here, and we're going to pretend that in that panel it is early morning. So let's put the sun towards the bottom of the sky, and let's say it's in the left corner. So way down here. It's very early in the morning. Okay. So now that we have our sun, do you know where our shadow is going to go? Okay, if you're not sure, we can start drawing the sunbeams just like we did in the last drawing. So you can see that our shadow needs to go on the right-hand side of this page. And you can see that because the sun is so low in the sky, a lot of our sunbeams are getting blocked by that tree or by whatever object you drew. That means that our shadows are going to be bigger. There's going to be less light getting around. So have you ever noticed when you stand outside early in the morning or late at night that your shadows are longer than when you stand outside in the middle of the day? That's why that's happening. So we're going to draw a long shadow, very long as you can do in your little panel, off on the opposite side of where our light source is. Okay, so there's our very long shadow for early morning. Now if we move over to our second panel, that'll be your top right panel, we're gonna do late morning. So we should still have our sun on the same left side of the sky, but it's gonna be higher up. So let's say that our sun is round about here. Okay, where do you think the shadow will be now? So it should still be on the opposite side of where our light source is. So it should still be on the right-hand side of this panel, but if we draw our sunbeams this time, you'll see that it's a lot less light that's getting blocked by our tree or by our object. So those shadows are going to be shorter than they were because more light is able to get around the tree. So this time we're going to draw a shadow that is on the right-hand side, on the opposite side of the sun, but it's going to be shorter. Like this. See the difference? Okay. Next we're gonna do an early afternoon panel. So over here in our bottom left panel, let's draw our sun. This time it's still high in the sky because it's traveling across the sky the way the sun does. But it's now on the right-hand side. Can you guess how the shadow is going to be this time? I bet you can, but we're going to draw those sunbeams anyway. Okay, so again, you can see that there's less sunbeams than over here that are getting blocked by our object. So it should be a short shadow, but now our sun is on the opposite side of the sky, so our shadow should be on the opposite side of the panel. So it should be on the left, but it should be kind of short again. Just like that. Okay, last panel before the end of the day. So, in our last panel, our sun is getting ready to set. It's later in the afternoon, so it's lower in the sky, but it's off to the right. So go ahead and add that in. And let's draw our sunbeams so we can see just how much our object is blocking the light from moving. Okay, so there's a lot of light getting blocked over here. So we got another long shadow like we had in the early morning, but this time it's off to the left. I bet you've got the hang of this by now. So let's go ahead and add those in real fast. And now we've tracked the shadows for the whole day. That was pretty cool, right? But if you want an extra challenge, because I think that was getting easy towards the end, I have one for you. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. I've drawn over here a scribble, and I have not added in the shadows yet. So I have a light source here. It's not the sun. This time I have a lamp. Where do you think the shadows are going to be for each of the objects here? If you already know, you can give the video a pause and you can copy my scribble and add the shadows in. And if you're not sure and you want to see me put them in, you can go ahead and watch me and I'll explain why the shadows are where they are when we get back. Let's get to scribbling. Welcome back, scribblers. Where did you decide the shadows should go in my scribble? I'm going to show you why I put my shadows where they are, and maybe you can test this out at home if you want to. All you need is a light source and whatever objects you want. Doesn't have to be these objects. Okay, so I drew a mug, a mouse, and some cheese. My mug is the closest to my lamp, and I drew the light beams in to show exactly how much light is going to pass over the mug and not get blocked by it, and how much actually is getting blocked. So you can see that only a little bit of that light is getting blocked by the mug, so it should have a short shadow like we saw in our comic. When it was in the middle of the day, like the late morning and the early afternoon, the sun was higher up in the sky and less of the light beams were being blocked by our object, in my case the tree, so the shadow was shorter. And the same goes for my mouse over here. My mouse isn't as close as the mug, so its shadow's a little bit longer, but it's still pretty close. So only a little bit of the light's being blocked, so it's casting a shorter shadow, even though it's probably the biggest thing on here. And then I have my cheese over here, which is much further away from my lamp. So it's casting a much bigger shadow. You notice that there's holes in my Swiss cheese and there's a hole in my mug handle? Why did I not draw some holes in my shadows like I have in my Swiss cheese and my mug handle? Can you guess why? It's tricky. It's because if my lamp is over here and my holes are facing me, from the lamp's perspective, that block of cheese is just a triangle. So the light is not going to go through the holes because the holes are not facing where the light is traveling. That's the same thing for the mug handle. I don't have the mug handle turned so that it's parallel to where the light is traveling. So that was a little bit of a trick question there. But you did a great job And you should definitely be sure to show off the scribbles we drew together today on social media using the hashtag SteenScribbles. And be sure to tune in again next week for another episode of Steen Scribbles. See you next time, Scribblers.